Hi everyone, so today we're going to explore mimicry and biomimicry. So we begin looking at predator-prey relationships. You might be all familiar with the fox and the rabbit. So the fox wants to catch the rabbit, obviously, for some food, and so he's called the predator, and the rabbit is the prey. So animals have adapted over time to either defend themselves or developed over time to become very good predators. So if you look at the fox, it actually has reddish colour fur because a rabbit is red-green colourblind, so it actually does not detect a fox when it's in the area. It has long canine teeth, sharp teeth that can dig into its prey, and it can tear the flesh when it's eating. And also it has great speed to outrun the prey to capture it. Now we look at the prey, the poor old rabbit. Well, very importantly, the rabbit rests underground. It makes a burrow and it rests underground to protect itself from the fox that can't fit into that burrow at all. It has long ears because, as I was saying, it doesn't actually have great eyesight, so it has good long ears to detect the predators. It also has a white tail. This is used as, obviously, rabbits can't talk to each other, and they need to be able to give each other warning signals when there's a predator in the area. So they shake their white tail, and this is always a sign that there is a predator prowling. So a lot of predators and prey have adaptations. We might start with the predator first of all. So for example, they might have a long neck or trunk in order to gain access to the food. They might have, especially birds of prey, they might have long claws, beaks, etc. And carnivores, they have great eyesight, they have big sharp teeth, and they've got claws that can hold and kill an animal. If we look at the prey adaptations, prey sometimes can produce toxins. So if a predator bites into it, they won't be long going away, or they might actually sting them. Prey have developed to be much faster than their predator. Mimicry, which we're looking at today, they mimic something else. So an animal mimics something else so that the predator thinks it's a different animal, even though it's an animal that they could actually prey on. Some animals have armours and spikes. Just think about what animals you know, like for example the hedgehog. Some use camouflage, and we talk about that next. And some of them are just produce a really bad odour, like for example a skunk. So no predator really wants to go near them because they're too smelly. Now we move on to camouflage. So one way preys try and protect themselves from being eaten by their predators is actually camouflage themselves, make them kind of dissolve into the background so the predator doesn't see them. So this is a lovely example of a prey here. It's actually a spawn worm, but if you look at it, it looks completely like a twig, doesn't it? And if you look here, can you see any animal in this picture? There's a chameleon on a tree in Kenya. So there's its head, there's its legs, there's its body, and then all along here is its tail. So you can see from these animals that they look like their surroundings. So they change their colour, their shape, or their pattern so that they can fit into the background. So can you see the animal in this picture? What type of animal is it? So it is here, and it is maybe a bit more obvious in this one. It's here. So this is the highly poisonous stonefish. It blends almost seamlessly into the rocks and the coral that it hides, and then it pounces on its prey. So you can't see it. So the poor prey that's going past doesn't actually see him, and then he comes out, or he or she comes out and pounces on them and actually poisons its prey and then eats it. Here's another example. Can you see the animal? So here are the eyes, the nose, the legs, the back legs. So this is a narrow-headed frog. It's native to Madagascar. The frog's brown and yellow colouring, as well as its really rough texture, allows it to blend into the mud and tree trunks in its environment. So it can hide away from its prey. Another few examples. Here's a gecko. So a gecko is a type of lizard, and it looks really like the trunk of the trees that it's actually climbing on, doesn't it? There is its eyes, its teeth, and you can see, look, it's there, its claws, and then its body goes up along there. This is a lovely example as well. This is a flatfish. So the flatfish lies in the bottom of the ocean. So in this case, it's a very sandy area, so it looks pretty much like the sand. So it's very much hidden in the bottom of the sea. Also, the same concept here, you have your octopus. So your octopus looks like the surrounding base of the sea area that they're in. You can just see its eyes there and its legs. And I love this picture. This is the owl in its tree. So it's sitting up there in its tree. You can see its claws here. You can see its big beak, eyes, its ears. There they are. So that's camouflage. Now we're going to go on to mimicry. So animals mimicking another animal to protect themselves. So this is a lovely example again. This is a leaf insect, and it looks pretty much like a leaf. So it's mimicking a plant. So an insect is mimicking a plant. So hopefully its prey, like the birds, won't come along and eat it. I like this one as well. As the name suggests, it's a dead leaf butterfly. So that's actually its wings, and it looks like a dead leaf. And again, it's hoping that its predators won't come near it and eat him. Again, another example of an insect, looks the exact same as the leaves on the trees in its environment. So it's mimicking the leaves. I love this one as well. This is the iomot. And what animal do you think it's trying to pretend to be? So if you look at the iomot, when its wings are closed, it looks like this. And it opens its wings, and then you have these two big eyes looking out at you. So a bit of background on the iomot. The iomot is eaten by owls. So when an owl is in the area, and the moth knows that the owl's in the area and possibly could be eaten by the moth, it opens up its wings and shows these big designs that look like big eyes. The owl looks at them, thinks there's another owl in the area, and will move on. Because owls are very territorial. If an owl goes into somebody or some other owl's territory, there will be a huge fight, and usually one of them will end up dead. So as soon as an owl sees these fake, I suppose, eyes, it will move on very, very quickly because it doesn't want to get into a fight with another owl. So that's the iomot. So it's mimicking an owl. Okay, so now we look at different other types of mimicry. So mimicry, if you look here, it's a drone fly, but it looks completely like a bee, but it's completely harmless as it doesn't sting at all. But everyone knows a bee stings, so if a predator is in the area and sees the bee, it will not go near it because it doesn't want to be stung. Same thing if a predator is in the area, sees the drone fly that looks the exact same as the bee, will not go near it because it does not want to be stung either. So the drone fly and the bee was an example of Mullerian mimicry. This is another example of Mullerian mimicry. So if you look here, you have the monarch butterfly and you have the viceroy butterfly. So these are good examples of Mullerian mimicry, in which two or more different species that are poisonous or distasteful have come to resemble one another. This likeliness provides an adaptive advantage because predators learn quickly to avoid all butterflies with this coloration and these markings. As a result, then, fewer butterflies of these species, whether it's the monarchs or the viceroys, die, and more individuals survive. So this is an example of Mullerian mimicry. The drone flying the bee was an example of Mullerian mimicry also. So prey that carry a threat to the predators often advertise the fact by usually being brightly coloured and conspicuous in some way. This conspicuousness, colours, or many distasteful or toxic butterflies, snakes, for example, and bees, warn predators that feeding on me may be hazardous to your health. So coral snakes are brightly coloured with red, yellow and black bands on them. All of the 120 species of coral snakes in tropical America are extremely poisonous. Many other non-poisonous snakes have evolved to develop colour patterns that mimic the appearance of a coral snake. These non-poisonous snakes are called Batesian mimics because they mimic the colour patterns of the unrelated poisonous species. So many harmless species appear to mimic toxic species. So you have king snakes mimic coral snakes. So this form of mimicry is called Batesian mimicry. In Batesian mimicry, the toxic species serves as a model, and the harmless species then is the mimic. So we can learn so much about the world by exploring how animals and plants work and how they've developed over time and how they've adapted to survive life. So we go from mimicry to biomimicry. So what's biomimicry? Biomimicry is the practice of applying lessons from what we learned in nature to an invention or to a design or to a product to develop new technologies and more sustainable technologies for people around the world. Biomimetic designs focus on understanding and learning from and emulating. Emulating means copying the strategies used by living things, by the animals and the flowers and the plants that we all explore throughout our lives. This biomimetic designs then produces designs and technologies that are sustainable but also that can be used for people to solve problems. So a very simple example of this would be if you look at the tiny hooks on the burr fruits on the left. Well, this is what inspired the designers of Velcro tape. So Velcro tape has small little tiny hooks that can grasp onto the other piece of materials. So lots of materials actually have been developed based on animals. This is an example, the shark skin swimsuit. So shark skin has inspired swimsuits right throughout the world. And I suppose since about 2008 in particular, with Michael Phelps, we looked at the innovative designs of swimsuits, basing it on shark skin. Shark skin is made of countless overlapping scales called dermal denticles, or they call them little teeth. The denticles have grooves running down their length in alignment with the water flow. So these grooves disrupt the formation of any swirls of slower water that might pass over the person's body. This type of design then makes you swim much faster and improves your performances. Biomimicry is also used in architecture. So this is the National Aquatic Centre in Beijing. It's also known as the Water Cube, and it was built, I think, in 2008. The structure was inspired by cells and the natural formation of soap bubbles. The unique geometry of the bubbles was used repetitively and kind of in patterns to build a structure that appeared organic and random. The continuous skin of the structure was created using a plastic due to its lightweight material, but also it was actually quite insulating, and it kept the building warm. If you look here, we have the gherkin in London. So if you look at the gherkin in London, it mimics the shape and lattice structure of a Venus flower basket sponge. The lattice exoskeleton, so the skeleton, and shape of the sponge provide the strength and stability. The hollow basket formed by the skeleton filters water through the body, and it filters, the water passes through and it filters out the nutrients, so that the sponge keeps onto the nutrients for food. The structural elements of the building are then connected at different angles on each floor due to its shape. Aircraft wings and flight techniques are all based and inspired by birds and bats. The aerodynamics of streamlined designs of, for example, the improved high-speed trains in Japan were modelled based on the beak of a kingfisher. So we can see that nature provides an untapped resource to look for innovations and look at how we could design things in the real world. For example, this is the Bionoc kangaroo. I'll never get that right. But the Bionoc is a robot model developed and made in Japan, but it looks like a kangaroo. So it applies methods of bionics and biomimetrics. So the researchers and the engineers studied the way the kangaroos moved and applied that to their design of the robot that moves in the similar way. The robot saves energy from each jump and applies it onto the next jump, so it is very sustainable. Here is the bionic kangaroo. It just jumps like a real kangaroo, and on every jump it keeps the energy from one jump, stores it for the energy to be used for the next jump, and so on. Kamigami robots in Japan are also work on the similar concept. They're a children's toy, and they mimic cockroaches. They mimic cockroaches' locomotion, how cockroaches move to run quickly and efficiently over indoor and outdoor surfaces.
Ingenious new robots. Hi, I'm Chris the Toy Guy. Get ready to bug out with some ingenious new robots.
So now we're going to look at biomimicry in robotics. Biometric research on robotics is being carried out in many research institutions all around the world with the aim really of developing biometric mimetic robots that are much more robust and much more competent than the robots that we have already. Designers of these robots are taking advantage and using new developments, new fabrication technologies and sensors to develop a wide range of robots in this space. Biomimetic robots are particularly suited to perform autonomous or semi-autonomous tasks. For example, robots that can explore and can land on different planets in space. So we look at the snake bots. So snakes are one of life's or the world's unique creatures. They're quick, they're smart, and they're highly efficient. They're very different to any other creature when you look at their body shape and size. They lack a rigid or a tough or a strong or a rigid exoskeleton that can make their bodies twist and turn and bend in many ways. So they can enter the smallest of holes, they can swim underwater, they can wrap themselves around trees, they can crawl over surfaces, etc. So they have lots and lots of advantages and qualities that attracts the inspiration of lots of designers and engineers, especially in NASA. Engineers at NASA, for example, have developed a new type of robotic and a probe called a snakebot. They want to use the snakebot to explore areas of Mars. Snakebots will give the scientists completely a different look over and under the Martian landscape. Here's a batbot. Bats have wings that can change shape during their flight, with their shoulders, their legs, their elbows and their wrists all moving at once. They have a very complex flight mechanism of all the animals. Lots of scientists and engineers are always intrigued by just how they fly. So the University of Illinois built this batbot. It has soft, articulated wings. This robot's design will help build safer or more efficient flying robots, and also gives more insight into the way that bats fly. It weighs a very small amount and it doesn't use much battery life or much energy. So these are antbots. Ants are actually one of the most intelligent creatures on our planet. They build colonies and they have societies and they have divisions of labour and they communicate between each other. They kind of parallel with how humans and people in society and communities interact with one another. They are very cooperative and they work as part of a team. So we wanted to see, or the engineers wanted to see, how they could transfer this into the world of technology. The bionic ants work together and they communicate with each other and they coordinate their actions and they work as part of a team. So it kind of shows, and it shows designers and technology how autonomous individual components can solve a big complex task. So individual components of a robot can all be built up together to form and complete more complex tasks. And the last one I'll leave you with is inspired by the octopus. So it's the Octobot, and it's made from actually kind of a soft silicon gel, so it can vary in its stiffness. The Octobot is powered by a chemical reaction that pushes gas through its chambers into its rubbery legs here. And because of this design, the robot does not actually need any batteries or wires, and it contains no kind of hard or rigid components. So instead, the limb movements are pre-programmed into a short circuit board, and it's only built from tiny pipes. So if you want to learn more about biomimicry, definitely look up biomimicry.org, and biomimicry.net is definitely a place I would begin when looking at developing a project on biomimicry and robotics. This brings me on to the STEM project this year for the VEX Robotics Challenge. It's biomimicry in engineering. So how can you use inspiration from nature to engineer a new technological solution or create a better way to help people? So just to recap, biomimicry is an approach to engineering that solves challenges by observing nature in action and using the knowledge to inspire new ideas. Many existing projects owe their design to biomimicry, and the number of technologies inspired by animals and plants continue to grow. So the rules of the challenge. How can we use a feather of a plant or an animal to solve a problem or help people? For example, let's just say you go with a title like that. Identify a problem that interests you. Then brainstorm and research ways nature had adopted to solve similar problems. So research is hugely important at the beginning of your STEM project. Use the engineering design process that you have used during your robotics challenge to make and build your robots to imagine or create a prototype or a solution that incorporates and features a feature that mimics something from about a plant or an animal. So you should organize your research into you must organize your project into the summary of your research, and then what did you come up with? What type of prototype solution did you come up with? And you present this all then in a video. You can present it in any way or format you want in the video, as long as you combine some sort of audio and video, and that you can share your research with people at home, with the general public, etc. Things to keep in mind for a successful STEM project. Make sure that all team members are involved in your project. Look at existing problems out there. So look at problems that exist, and can you actually solve them using biomimicry? So can we use adaptations that plants and animals use to solve problems? Look at, why did you decide on this problem? There might be many different ways to solve your particular problem, so research and explore them all, and tell us why you decided on the solution that you did. Look at, are there actually current solutions out there that exist already? Maybe yours isn't a completely new invention, maybe yours is an adaptation, or you're improving an existing solution. You have to then come along and imagine, so you draw or you create a prototype and you describe this back to us. Make sure when you're doing a research project, we want to know where you're getting your information from. So make sure you always include what websites, what magazine articles, etc. that you used, and were they reliable. Good luck everyone. Your STEM project is biomimicry in engineering. Let's get researching.